Hi my loves, welcome back again to my YouTube channel. My name is Osereme, and in today's video I am going to be showing you guys how we went about the making of this beautiful dress. Now I made this for my little niece and I just took a picture and asked AI to please put it on an African kid for me, which they did, and it looks absolutely amazing. So if this is something you're interested in, definitely keep on watching and let us get started. Alright guys, so these are the materials I'm going to be using for the making of this dress. I have this 100% quality African print fabric here. If you have 1 or 2 yards, depending on how old the child is, it will be perfect. Then I have my doll face, which I intend to use for the skirt part, and then I have about 6 yards of net. So let's go ahead and get started. Now for the upper part, I have my fabric here folded into 4. So you are going to go ahead and fold the fabric into 2 first like this, and then you're going to fold it again. But this time around, the second fold does not need to get all the way to the edge. You should leave it about 1.5 inch away. That 1.5 inch is going to be the zipper allowance for the back. Okay, so this side here is going to be the length of our half length, and for this child it's 9 inches, and what I have here is 10 inches. Now for the other side, I made sure to check to make sure that it's going to be long enough for her as well. So this is what I have it folded into 4, so that way we are cutting both the front and the back together, and you guys see where the zipper allowance is. So I'm taking my measurement from the second fold and not from the zipper allowance fold here. So I went in by about 2 inches for her neck width, and then I'm coming down by 2.5 inches for her neck depth. You guys, this is a child. This child is below 2 years old, so that's what I'm making. That's who I'm making this dress for. Okay, so I've gone ahead to draw out a beautiful small round neckline here, as you can see. Now, once you achieve with this, the next thing you want to do is from the top, I came down by 1 inch, and this time around, I allowed this neckline to go into the zipper allowance. This is going to be the back neckline. So I have the back and the front neckline drawn out together, but we'll cut them separately. Now, the next thing we want to do is the shoulder. So I'm going to divide her shoulder measurement into 2 equal halves, and what I have here is about 4.25. So from this front here as well, I'm going to measure the half of her shoulder measurement. I'll mark it here, and then I'm going to go ahead and mark it to show very well. So now I'm going to come down by half an inch, because this is a child. I came down by half an inch for her shoulder slope, and I just measured it to meet the top of the neckline, as you can see. So once I was done with that, the next thing I'm going to do is I came down by about 4 inches for her armhole depth, and I'm going to connect from my shoulder down to meet these points that I have here. So now the next thing you're going to do is to just curve this out nicely. As you can see, this is a child, so you don't need to be going in and out and having that ½ inch and all of that here. Just draw it out nicely as you see me doing like this, and you are literally good to go. So now once you're through with that, the next thing you want to do is her bust measurement. And for this child, her bust measurement and waist measurement are the same, 22 inches. So I'm going ahead to divide that bust measurement into 4. Okay, so I used my tape to divide it into 4, and I'm going to take that measurement from the front like you see I've done here, and I've gone ahead to mark it, and I will just do the exact same thing on the waist area as well. I'll just take this down because the waist and the bust for this child is the same, and we're not going to be having any darts because for children's clothing is not really necessary except they are a little bigger. Okay, so now from the shoulder down to her half length, which is the waist, is 9 inches. What I have here is 10, so I'll just mark it at 10 here because we need the extra inches to be able to stitch it at the upper part and bottom part, okay, so that it doesn't become too short. So once that is done, I have not added stitching allowances to the sides. Okay, I am going to add an extra about 1.25 inch to the side. Do not forget to add your stitching allowance to the side. Okay, and then for the armhole area, you can also decide to add stitching allowances as well. Please do not forget to add your stitching allowances, because it's a child doesn't mean that will not add stitching allowance. Okay, so I'm going ahead now to cut out everything. Now we'll cut out the back neckline together with the front, but when it's time to cut out the deeper neckline, which is the front neckline alone, you'll pick the front like this and you cut it out separately. Please make sure that you do not cut the front and the back neckline together so that the back neckline is not too deep. The back is a high neckline and the front is a deeper neckline. So this is what we have. These are our front and back pieces. I'm going to go ahead and cut out lining pieces for these two, and then we'll go ahead and continue. Alright guys, so I've cut out the lining pieces for the upper part for both the front and the back, and this is what it looks like. The lining should be cut out exactly the same thing as what you have on the actual fabric. So I'm just going to go ahead and pin around the neckline of the front and the back pieces. So we'll go over to the sewing machine and just stitch down the areas that we are pinning down right now. So guys, it's been stitched down. As you can see, this is what it looks like. Okay, I've gone ahead to iron it out nicely, and we've done the exact same thing for the back as well. So now the next thing we're going to go ahead and do is to join the front pieces and the back pieces together on the shoulder. So I'm going to place them together, right sides facing each other like this, and I'll pick lining to lining, fabric to fabric. That's the method that I want to use here. Okay, so lining to lining, fabric to fabric, just like you see I've done here. I will start pinning from the middle to make sure that that place is well aligned, and then I'll pin the linings together and then the actual fabric together, and I will just go over to the sewing machine and just make a straight stitch on these areas that I am pinning down right now. This method allows you to be able to do inner sewing on the upper part, especially if you're going to be sewing the armhole area from the inside. Okay, so I'm going to go over to the sewing machine now and stitch down this area, lining to lining, fabric to fabric. So see how I pick it. So place them together, right sides facing each other, pin the actual fabrics together, and then pin the lining together. Just go over to the sewing machine and make a straight stitch to secure that area down, and once you iron it out, it will look really neat. My loves, this is what we had after I was done stitching down the armhole area. So this is what it looks like. So you see, we stitched lining to lining, fabric to fabric, and this is what it looks like. It looks very neat both in front and back. So now the next place we want to do is the armhole area, and to do this, you're just going to go ahead and open the armhole, and you're going to like sandwich the other side of the fabric. So you're just going to bring it out in a way that you are putting the armhole and the lining together, right sides facing each other, and then the rest of the fabric will be inside. It's quite easy. If you try it, you will understand what I'm trying to explain, but it's very easy. Just put everything inside this one armhole, and then go ahead and pin the lining and the actual fabric together, just like you see me doing like this. Just go over to the sewing machine and stitch it down, and then when you turn it around, it will look very neat as well. So this way you don't need to turn the armhole separately. Since this is for a child, you will just sew it from the inside. So I'll go ahead and stitch this area down. So guys, this is what I had after I was done stitching it down. So look at how you bring it out. Okay, so I will just make a few notches around so that when I turn it over, it will be able to come out really nicely, and when we iron it out, it will look really neat. When you're done, just pull out the other side that you placed inside earlier. It might be a bit difficult because you put a lot of fabrics in there, but once you're done turning it around, you would have it looking something like this. You would already see how neat the armhole, the shoulder area, the neckline, everything is looking. Okay, so I'm going to do the exact same thing for the other side, and then I will go ahead and iron out everything. So for this other side now, you just put all of these inside and then bring the lining and the actual fabric together. So if you didn't get this before, I hope you can get it now. So just put them together, pin it down, and then just go ahead and stitch it down just like we did for the other side. So now they're both stitched down and ironed out, and you can see how neat it looks. So now the next thing we're going to be doing is on the sides. So what you do is lining to lining, fabric to fabric as well to join the sides. So I'm just going to check for her body measurement, which is 22, and what I need to just stitch down on this side is just about 1 inch on both sides. So I'll pick the lining to lining and pick the fabric to fabric. This is on the side, okay, on the side. It's very easy, guys. Try not to get confused. Lining to lining, fabric to fabric on the side. Once you pick them together, just go ahead and pin it down straight as well. So just like you've been doing so far, just go over to the sewing machine and make a straight stitch, and you will have a very neat side done. Now I should have added my belt at this point to the actual fabric area, but I forgot and I just went ahead to stitch it down. But later I actually had to open up this the side of the actual fabric, not the lining, to add my belt on the inside. Trust me, that is not difficult at all. So I'm just going ahead to pin this down, as you can see. So lining to lining, fabric to fabric. I'll just make a straight stitch here, and you guys, can you see, have an idea of what it's going to be looking like? So you see how neat this side will be. So once that is done, I will do the exact same thing for this other side as well. So I'll just pick lining to lining, fabric to fabric as well, and stitch it down. So guys, it's all stitched down now, the upper part, and this is what it looks like. So if you turn it, you can see where we made our stitch here, looking really nice and clean. And when you turn it over, you've ironed it out. Can you see how the back is looking? The armhole is looking neat. Everything is looking neat. If you're going to be selling something like this is how you should make it. It should look neat both on the inside and outside, okay? So this is the upper part. So I'm just going to go ahead now and finish up the zipper area. So for the zipper area, you will just turn it over to the wrong side and just make a straight stitch to secure this place, the open area there, and do the exact same thing for the other side as well. Just turn it over and stitch it down, and that will basically be it to finish that. And once you're through with that, you're going to measure around the waist. So what I have here around the waist is about 24 inches. So that's what I'm going to be using to cut out the skirt part, which is going to be flare. Okay, so taking note of that, we are going to cut out the flare. So for the flare, you will need to have your fabric folded into 4. So as you can see here, I already folded it, so this is into 2, right? And then you fold it again, and then it becomes a fold into 4. So this area here where you have it looking like this pointed edge is where you would take your measurement from. So the measurement around the waist for this child is 25 inches. So I am folding that 25 inches into 4, all right? So it's 6.5, right? And I'm going to use it to just like create a curve around, all right? So that's what I'm going to be doing. But because I want this flare to be big, so that I can make extra gathers on it, instead of using 6.5, I will use about 9 inches here, okay, for the waist area. Okay, so that way I will be able to make extra gathers on this flare. So I'm using 9 inches, and I just used that 9 inches to create a rough curve, and I made a point. So from that point, I'm going to measure all the way to the middle of our fold here, and what I have is 5 inches. So I'm using that 5 inches to draw a curve around. Like I said, her waist is supposed to be 25 inches, but I am using way more than that right now, so that I can make gathers on the flare later, so that it will be fuller, it will look fuller. Now this is the waist. Now from the waist, you're going to measure the length that you want for this flare to be. This is going to be the flare that is on top, the small flare on top. So I will just measure it to be about, I like it to be about 6 inches by the time we're done with everything, okay? So I'll mark this out right now with 7.5 inches or 7 inches. So I'm going to mark it here. I'm using 6.5 actually. So from the first one, you're going to measure 6.5. That's the length of the flare. So 6.5, you know, by the time we're done with everything, it will fall down to about 5.5. Okay, so yeah, this is a child, that's why it's this small. All right, so I'm just going ahead to measure this all the way around. As you can see, it looks really nice and clean. So yeah, this is going to be the top flare that is going to be on top of the other one that is beneath, which is the gathered one, and the door face. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut this out right now. I hope that you guys really understand this. It's really very simple. This is the flare. This is one part of the skirt part, all right? And we made the waist way bigger than what it's supposed to be, so that we can make gathers on it. So this is what we have. So now I will cut out the second layer. So for the second layer, I used the door face, all right? So I used the doll face, and it is exactly the same waist as what we had on the first layer, the top layer. So the only difference is that this one is longer. All right, so the bottom layer was just longer, so I just placed the first one on top of this, and then just use it to cut out the pink one, but I just made the pink one longer than the upper one. So the pink one is supposed to now give you the full length that you want this dress to be on the child. So can you see it's the same flare, just that this is longer. All right, so the half length, which was 9 inches earlier, plus that full one is going to give us the full length for this dress. Okay, and of course I've gone ahead to cut out lining for it, for the flare, and this is for the top one, and I'll cut out lining for the skirt part for the other one as well, which is the pink one. So this is very simple. I'm going to go over to the sewing machine and just stitch this down with the lining all the way around, and then iron it out to look neat. Okay, I really hope that you guys understand what I'm doing here, and I'll do the exact same thing for this. I'll cut out lining and also join it with the lining nicely as well. So I will just go over to the sewing machine and sew it all the way around, iron it out, turn it over to the right side, and show you guys what it looks like. So guys, this is what it looks like. This is the lining added to the pink part. I've stitched the lining to this part, and you can see I've ironed it out. It looks very neat. And for the top one as well, I've gone ahead to do the exact same thing. I even made a top stitch towards the lining so that it stays perfectly in place. So this is going to be the bottom layer. You can see it's a very beautiful flare. As you can see, we're going to make gathers on it. Like I said earlier, that was why the waist was bigger than what it's supposed to be. All right, so please don't forget that. And then now this is the net that we're going to be placing on top of this pink fabric before we place the Ankara fabric, right? So now the net needs to be the same length as what we have on the bottom flare. So the length of this bottom flare here is about 16 inches as I've measured it now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and fold my net in a way that it gives me that same around 16 inches. So this net that I have here, I said it is 6 yards of net. You can even get more. Okay, so I went ahead to fold the length of this net into 3 so that I'll be able to get it to be around 15 inches, 16 inches that I need, sorry. So you can see that means now I have 3 layers of net. And what I went ahead to do was, on one side of this net, when I folded it, I decided to sew a gather stitch. So because the bottom part is flare, the net doesn't necessarily need to be cut as a flare. You can make it gather and it will still give the same effect. So you can see I folded 3 nets together, like I put 3 nets together, stitch them together on one side with a gather stitch, so that when I pull on my gathers, it will give a very full look like you're seeing here. So I'm going to pull on these gathers until it becomes the actual waist that I need for my dress. So the upper part, remember the waist is around 24-25 inches. So that's what I'm going to pull these gathers to get to. Okay, just watch what I'm doing. It's very simple. But when you're doing these gathers behind the camera, it might take some time, but just pull on it nicely until you get to the end, and you would have it looking like this. So this is my beautiful gathers made, and I'm going to be stitching it to the upper part alongside the other two. So just to be sure, now that we've stitched down the back, what we have here is 24.5. So that's what we need this gathered net to also be. So I'll just measure to make sure it is 24.5 as well. So you can see it is perfectly 24.5. So this is perfect. We're done making the gathers for this. You can see what I've done here. Now for the skirt part, the other skirt part as well, I went ahead to make a gather stitch around the waist area. Remember I told you guys that I made it bigger than it's supposed to be because I wanted to make gathers on it. So now we'll make the gathers. And now when we make these gathers, we'll make sure it also gets to the same 24.5 inches. So everything now needs to get back to 24.5 inches so that it will be exactly enough to go around the waist of the upper part that we are working with. Okay, I really hope you understand. So we made the waist of this skirt part bigger earlier because we wanted to do this. This will make the flare even fuller. All right, so we wanted to do this. Now I have done it, and it is going to be 24 inches for me to stop. So I'll check when it gets to 24 inches, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the exact same thing for the top one, which is the Ankara. So this right here is 24.5 inches, which is perfect. So now let's do the last one. So for the last one as well, around the waist area, I have gone ahead to make a gather stitch. So you just pull on one of it and then go ahead and make sure it is 24.5 inches as well. So all these three pieces, the net, the doll face, and the Ankara, are all going to be part of the skirt part. All right, so just watch what I'm doing and do exactly the same thing. So of course you need to measure to make sure that it's the same length, the same 24.5, which is what I have here. So now I'm going to place all three pieces together. So it starts with the first one, which is the doll face. Okay, I will be covering it up with the net, followed by the net, and then followed at the top by the Ankara. Do you guys now understand? So all these three pieces are going to be the skirt part of this dress. So I'm just going to place all three pieces together, the doll face at the bottom, the net in between, the Ankara at the top, and I'm going to pin all of them together. Take this over to the sewing machine, and first of all just stitch this together with a normal stitch. This time around we will not need to be using a gather stitch anymore. It feels like an angel straight from heaven, just like my lucky number 7. So now let's go over to the sewing machine and stitch down the waist. So this is me on the sewing machine. It's really very simple. You're just making sure to align all the three of them together at the waist and just make a straight stitch to join them together. So that's basically what you're doing here. So by the time you're done, all of these three pieces will now become a one piece. So this is what it looks like. So this is what we have after stitching everything down at the top. So this is it. I've gone ahead to put everything together, and this is what we have. You can see it looks really neat. So what we're going to be doing now is to join this upper part with that skirt part that we've joined together. So I mentioned about this belt earlier, that I would have added it to this side when I was doing this at that point, but I actually had to loosen it up and just place my belt, making sure that I have ½ inch away from the end of the fabric so that I will be able to join this to the bottom part. Make sure that the belt is ½ inch away from the ends of your fabric here. So once you're through with that, you want to just place the upper and the bottom parts together on the waist. So just go ahead and pin it together just like you see me doing like this, and you will just go over to the sewing machine and just make a straight stitch to join these two together. Once you're through with this, fix the zipper, and basically you're done making this dress. It's very simple, and for the method we are using here, it just requires you to weave the rough edges, which is serging. For those of you that don't know it as serging, just weave the rough edges and you'll be good to go. It still looks neat on the inside, even though you don't do all of those inner sewing for this skirt part. Okay, so I'm just pinning the upper part and the skirt part together, just like you see me doing like this. If there's any excess, just put it in nicely and gather it into the rest of the waist and just fix it together. It will stay. So I'm just going ahead to just pin this down nicely, and then we'll go over to the sewing machine and stitch it down. You're my shooting star. We're running around in circles. Love feels so invincible. Feel you and there's no one. So guys, after I was done making that stitch, this is what it looks like. We've joined the upper and bottom part of this together. So now the last thing is to finish up the back. So I'm just placing the zipper allowance area together, aligning the skirt part. As you can see, make sure to pick all the pieces because you have a lot of them at this point, and I'm going to just go ahead and pin it down somewhere here. So I would be sewing from where I pinned down straight. So from here I'll stitch down straight, and then the upper part I'll add a zipper. So I've added a zipper to the upper part and stitched down the other side straight, And basically that is all for the making of this beautiful dress, and this is what it looks like. So yeah, that's basically all for the making of this. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you find this tutorial helpful. I will definitely be seeing you guys in my next video. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section. Bye.